So yes, so recording has begun and I will share the screen now. So we were in the last day we were discussing about MOSFET, eMOSFET biasing specifically. So all these were done before. This is what we had discussed last day. So let us start from here only. So the enhancement mode MOSFET, the eMOSFET, and we know that it has that ohmic region, the saturation region and the cutoff region, and we know that this type of MOSFET is utilized for digital or analog switch purposes. So we are operating the MOSFET in the ohmic region or the cutoff region. Now the cutoff region is very easy to establish because if we keep the VGS to be 0 or we do not supply any voltage there, it is in the cutoff region. And what about the ohmic region? So in ohmic region there has to be a certain VGS applied which takes it to the ohmic region or the saturation region, but it does not take it to the active region. So this is the important part, and for that this VGS on, some VGS on voltage is given in the data sheets. Now as you know that for a particular positive voltage the characteristics would look like this. It would have a saturation region and it would have a active region also. So just setting VGS on does not guarantee the saturation region operation. So along with that we have to ensure that the whatever the loading you have done, so there is a simple RD loading, the load line intercepts the characteristics in the saturation region. So for that another point is mentioned in the data sheets along with VGS on. This is the point called Q test. So this is a particular point in the saturation region of the output characteristics for this VGS equals to VGS on curve. So this Q test point is there, and for that you are you will have some ID on. You can see here some ID on you can have. Now if your current, your output current is more than this ID on, then there is a possibility of going to the active region very easily. But if the current is less than this ID on, then you are quite happy and you ensure that you will be in the saturation region even if there is some variation in the Q point due to any reason. So we have to maintain, you have to ensure that this ID saturation, this current which is flowing while we are trying to keep it in the saturation region, so this ID saturation is less than ID on. So this has to be ensured. Now how to calculate ID sat? It is very simple for this particular circuit. It is nothing but VDD by RD. If you neglect this, this is the source, drain source voltage VDS. If you neglect this, you can neglect this because the VDS, you can see this is very small in this region, is very small. So roughly you can calculate ID sat as VDD by RD, and now you have to ensure that this is less than ID on. Now this ID on value is known from the data sheet. If you find that ID sat is coming out to be more than ID on, then what you have to do, you have to simply increase the RD resistance. RD resistance you have to simply increase, because we are supposing that VDD is fixed given from some other power source maybe. So RD is in your hand, so RD you can increase. This ensures the operation in the ohmic region. Now this particular circuit would be made up with a passive resistance RD, like here you can see the resistance RD is passive. Passive means we have this you have not seen the resistances, or yeah, you have seen in your +2 laboratory experiments, at least you may have seen some resistances and these rheostats perhaps in some experiments. So rheostats are quite bulky in nature, but resistances are quite smaller in size, and they are the passive resistances. So it doesn't have any internal energy source within it. It cannot create an energy on its own, so one has to supply some energy to it, and it can only dissipate the energy. So that is, any passive element is working in that fashion. So resistance is a passive element. So this is passive load switching, because you are using a passive resistance here, and you are ensuring, what you are ensuring, this RD you have to set as a very high value that we already discussed. And another thing to note is that when this is working in the on state, that means if we are in the saturation region or the ohmic region, then the current flows through this, and we have already neglected VDS. So the assumption here is VDS. How you are able to neglect VDS? That this resistance in the drain source channel, which is the RDS on resistance, that is very small compared to RD. Then your entire current is due to the resistance offered by RD only. RDS on does not play a part in that. So this is the assumption here. And this circuit is actually an inverter circuit. Why I am saying this? Because you see, if you have a high voltage V in here, that is actually making this switch on in the on state. So if you suppose this is a switch, it is coming in the on state with a RDS on resistance in series with it, which is very small. So what happens is that this ground potential comes up to this point V out. So when you have V in as a high voltage, V out is a low voltage. Now you see, when you have V in as a low voltage, then this is open. This resistance RDS on is very high that time. So this is actually open that time, and you are having no current flowing in this region. So what happens, your VDD voltage comes to this V out voltage. VDD of course is a high voltage, so for 0 voltage or very low voltage you have a high voltage in the output. So this is working as an inverter. Now we come to the concept of active load switching, where we are removing this passive load with an active load. Now why this is required is important to understand. These transistors, when you will actually do the experiments, you will see that these transistors come in a chip, like there are like thousands of transistors in one particular chip, which is of the size of your fingertip. Okay, so in the size of your fingertip, almost thousands of transistors can be fit. So this is where the technology has taken us right now. So this is the size of the transistors have shrunk to such a huge extent. Now the passive resistances, although they are small, they are also in the size of the fingertip. So you can see that thousands of transistors are fitting within the size of a fingertip, whereas one resistance is also taking up that much of space. So what happens here, if you have to make a package of an inverter, then you have to accommodate one transistor, one MOSFET with a resistance in the same circuit. So what you are doing, the active element is very small, and with it you have to attach a very large passive element. So this mismatch of size makes the construction of the circuit very difficult, and that also, if one can also make that type of circuit, it gives rise to problems in this late connections and all. So there are a lot of losses that can happen, that can appear in the circuit. So what is the way out? The way out is active load switching, where this resistance is replaced by another transistor. So we know that these MOSFETs, when they are working in cutoff or saturation region, they are also like some resistance. There is some resistance value associated with them. So we utilize that fact. So what we do here, we use active load switching, and here you see that another MOSFET is used here, which is behaving as a load to this MOSFET, to the Q2 MOSFET. So Q1 MOSFET is behaving like a load to the Q2 MOSFET. Now the circuit is the same, exactly the same, only the RD has been replaced by this Q1. Now the arrangement of Q1 is very peculiar. You see here, due to the shorting between the drain and the gate, what is happening? The VG and VD become same. So VGS and VDS become same. So VGS and VDS is same for this Q1. So what is happening here? You see in the output characteristic ID VDS curve. Now these are the characteristics, the nonlinear characteristics, as you see here. These are the characteristics of the Q2 MOSFET. But what is the load? The load is given by this particular Q1 MOSFET. If you want to also draw the load line here, then the load line characteristics is given by VGS equal to VDS for this particular Q1. Now you have all these different VGS values set here, all these different VDS values set here, VGS and VDS values are here. So what you have to do for this Q1, for a particular VGS value, say +5, you find the VDS point which is also 5 volt. This would happen for this particular Q1. This would happen. Whatever is the VGS appearing here, the same is the VDS appearing here. So you have different VGS values here. The same VDS also you point out in the curve, and you draw a line through it. So you will see that it will come to be almost a straight line, and this is giving the slope of this line is giving the resistance offered by this Q1 transistor. So this slope is giving the resistance offered by this transistor Q1. So we understood this, and now we come to an important application of the MOSFET devices, especially the eMOSFET devices, which is the complementary MOS logic gates. Now this is called CMOS. CMOS is not a new kind of a MOSFET device. So it is either a eMOSFET, here it is eMOSFET, or it could also be a DMOSFET device, but eMOSFET is normally used. But the idea is we use complementary MOSFETs. What is complementary MOSFETs? One needs to understand this. So now all the different circuits we have studied is with eMOSFET, which is NPN eMOSFET we have used for our studies. But you can understand that very well a PNP eMOSFET could also be constructed. So when the eMOSFET is PNP, then what would happen? Then it would simply behave in the complementary fashion. What is the complementary fashion? Like you have your this active regions. So you have VGS equals to 0 as the cutoff region, and VGS as some positive value as the ohmic region for NPN type. Now for the PNP type, what would happen that VGS having a negative value, having a high negative value would be a cutoff region, and VGS equals to 0 would be a the saturation region. Okay. Sorry, I am talking about I had made some mistake here. So the complementary thing is that VGS positive will be cutoff and VGS 0 will be saturation. So when you give a lower voltage, which is the VGS equals to 0, then it is in the saturation region, and when you give a higher voltage, which is a positive voltage, then it is in the cutoff region. So that is how the PNP E MOSFET will behave. And this much is only what we need to know. So what is happening here, you see one of this is NPN, so this is the NPN and this is the PNP. So if you give a high voltage here, then what happens? If you give a high voltage here, then this Q2 is conducting, this closes, this switch is closed, but this Q1 is open now, because this Q1 is PNP, so a high voltage at its gate is making it go to the cutoff region, so it is opening up. So what is happening here now, since this is closed, this is open, so this ground voltage comes up to this V out. So with a high V in, we have a low V out. Similarly, with a low V in, we will have this coming to saturation, but this going to cut off. So this VDD comes to this V out. Okay. And so for low V in, we have a high V out. So you see, even the active load switching here as had been arranged could be changed by simply having complementary MOSFET circuits. So one is changed with a, so here in the active loading you see both are NPN, but here one is PNP, another is NPN. So this complementary mode of operation ensures that one acts as a high load to another when it is open, when it is closed or open. So when one is closed, another one is open, and that acts as the loading of the closed switch. So when this is closed, this acts as a load. When this is closed, this acts as a load. So in this way, and this load is very high resistance. So it is considered, you can consider almost open. So so this is how it works. Okay. And you see in this figure, we have a shorthand representation of these complementary MOSFET circuits. So this entire symbol could be changed like this. It is simply a circuit. You see a drain, a source and a gate. Here also a drain, a source and a gate. But what distinguishes between the NPN and the PNP is this bubble. So you see a bubble at the gate of the Q1 transistor. So this means this is a PNP, and when you don't have a bubble, this means it is a NPN. Another way to very simply recognize what is the idea of this bubble is that this transistor is on, or this switch is on when the gate voltage is low. So this bubble is as if like a 0. So 0 you can consider to be low voltage. So when the voltage here is low, when the gate voltage is low or 0 voltage, then it is switched on. This is the idea of the drawing the bubble here. Okay. And in this case, when the gate voltage is high, then it is closed, then Q2 is closed. So it works the same way. And another thing we introduce here is this operation table. So this is like a behavior table, or the you can say the switching operations are noted down in this particular table. So given a particular input A, you see here which is denoted simply now as 0 and 1. So we are not mentioning what is the value of the voltage, we are simply denoting it to be low voltage or high voltage. When it is low voltage we are writing 0, when it is high voltage we are writing 1. This is the way we represent our voltage values in digital logic systems. And in the next semester you will come to this course called digital electronics, where you will also see that this is you will do the entire course using 0 and 1 as voltage values, and not any particular analog value will be used here. So you can take this particular these circuits as some introduction to that digital electronics. So these are the logic gate circuits which are very much used in the digital electronics also. The gates are the fundamental building blocks in digital electronics. Okay, so like transistors and diodes are fundamental components in analog electronics, so the gates are fundamental components in digital electronics. And you can see here that each gate is comprised of transistors. So there is, here it is 2 transistors, there may be multiple transistors also. So this particular gate where the inversion operation is happening is called the NOT gate. It's called the NOT gate. Why it is called the NOT gate? It is simply that the output is not of the input. NOT means a complementary of the input. Okay. Now another gate we discuss is the NAND gate. We have already discussed the AND logic, and NAND is basically a NOT of AND, so it is the complementary of the AND logic. You can see in the input output behavior, just ignore the Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 for the time being. So just pay attention to A, B and C. What is happening whenever like we can define it in this way. So the output is 0 only when both the inputs are 1. So when both the inputs are high, only then the output is low, otherwise the output is high. Okay. In AND it was exactly the opposite. In AND the output was high only when both the inputs were low, both the inputs were high, otherwise the output was low. So NAND is exactly the opposite. Okay, the output is exactly the opposite. Now how to construct a particular circuit which gives rise to this sort of behavior? So you consider this circuit which is given in the left hand side, and you see what are the complementary. So these Q1 and Q3 are the complementary MOSFETs, because a single signal A is going to them, one in a bubbled manner, another in a unbubbled manner. Okay. So Q1 and Q3 are the complementary MOSFETs, and Q2 and Q4 are the complementary MOSFETs. So in the complementary MOSFET circuits, you have to have even number of MOSFETs and the same signal going to 2 MOSFETs, one of it is PNP, another is NPN. This has to be there. That is why this is called complementary MOSFET circuits. So if you are asked to draw a complementary MOSFET circuit, you must ensure that you have drawn a circuit where you have a NPN and a PNP MOSFET coupled together. Coupled together means the same signal flowing through both these MOSFETs. Okay. And in that manner you have to give rise to the behavior which is asked in the question. So here one can pose a question that you have this sort of a behavior you have to obtain from a CMOS circuit. What would be the circuit? So this would be the circuit. So you can draw this circuit, and this would give rise to this behavior. Now if you don't know the circuit, there may be so many different types of behavior which one can design. In that case you have to think a bit and figure out how you should construct the circuit, where you should take your output and where you should give your input, in order that the given mode of behavior appears from that circuit. Okay. So here you see how it behaves. So let us analyze. When A and B both are 0, then this branch is totally off, because either A or B is 0. That means one of these switches is cut off, is in the cutoff region, so it is open. So that means, and also you notice that one of these switches will become closed when A or B is 0. So this VDD comes to this C. So in each of these three cases, C becomes high output. When both A and B are 1, then both these Q1 and Q2 are off now, because these are bubbled. So Q1 and Q2 are off when A and B are high voltage, and both the Q3 and Q4 are on. So this ground comes up to C, and hence C becomes 0. So just looking at these and observing this a bit helps you understand how these circuits get constructed. So then next, it is only up to your intellect and analytic power to come out with some circuits for some newly given behavior table. And you see the Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 are also denoted here, which one is on and which one is off for a particular set of input and output. So another the question can be framed in this way also. You can be given a circuit could be given to you, and you have to note down what would be the states of Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 and the output for a given set of inputs. That can also be a question which will be a bit easier for you compared to constructing the circuit from a given behavior table. So another one I will show, two more I will show, and that would end this lecture. So this is the NOR gate, where it is simply the complementary of the OR operation. So here OR operation is was what? OR operation, any one of the input when it is high, the output would also be high, but here the output would be low, and the output would be high only when both the inputs are low. And the construction, you see, it is simply the opposite, like almost it looks like the mirror reflection of NAND. So how it operates now, you let us analyze. So whenever any one of this input is high, then what happens, either Q3 or Q4 is like a short, it is closed, so VSS comes to C, is ground, and one of these is open, so VDD cannot come to C. So only VSS comes to C, and hence these are all low. And when A and B both are 0, then both Q1 and Q2 is shorted, and both Q3 and Q4 are open. So VDD comes to C, and this is C is 1. Next is the XOR gate. This is a XOR gate, and in the XOR gate you see there are so many complementary MOSFETs with A. So which are the complementary MOSFETs? Identify Q1 and Q5, both are having A as an input. Q4 and Q6, both are having B as an input. Now you see A dashed and B dashed as inputs to other transistors. What are A dashed and B dashed? A dashed is the complementary of A, B dashed is the complementary of B. That means this A dashed and B dashed is created by passing A and B through a NOT gate. The NOT gate we have already seen. So we can assume that we have two NOT gates already we have, and we produce the A dashed and B dashed signals. After we have the A dashed and B dashed signal, then we have to construct this circuit to get the XOR operation. So this is the XOR operation. You can see when only one of the inputs is high, the output is high, otherwise the output is low. So for both inputs as high, the output is low, for both inputs as low, output is low. Only when one of the inputs is high, then the output is high. So output is high for dissimilar inputs. That is the definition of XOR gate. And you see, when we have constructed the XOR gate in this manner, then what happens when A and B both are 0, then Q1 is, then we have taken the Q1 Q2 branch as a whole, you see. So when A and B both are 0, then Q1 is conducting but Q2 is not conducting. So as a result, the whole Q1 Q2 branch is not conducting, so it is off. Similarly, Q3 Q4 is also off. Q5 Q6 is also off because both are 0, but Q7 Q8 is conducting, it is on because both are 0. So A dashed and B dashed is 1, so Q7 and Q8 is a short now. So the VSS comes to C. C is a joined, these 2 points are joined together and coming out as C. So VSS comes to C. So C is 0. So for 0 1, what happens? For 0 1, when this is 0, this is 1, this channel is conducting. So VDD comes to C. When this is 0 and this is 1, again this channel is conducting. So VDD comes to sorry, when A is 0 and B is 1, then this channel is conducting, this is not conducting, but it doesn't matter. VDD has already come to C, and both these two channels would be off, you see. When this is 0, this is 1, this is off. When this is 0, this is 1, this is off. So VDD comes to C, the ground cannot come up to C. When it is 1 0, when A is 1 and B is 0, then this channel gets on and VDD comes to C. And as earlier, you will find that both these two channels are off. In the last case, which is AB as 1 1, then this is off, this is off, this is conducting, this channel is conducting. So VSS goes to C through this channel Q5 Q6, and then C becomes 0. So you understand how we are analyzing the CMOS circuits, and by looking at that, you will be able to also construct simple CMOS circuits if a particular behavior is given to you. So here we end the course from my side, and we will discuss on the end term examinations. Okay, end term examination. So let me write it down here only, the marks division. So as I remember that the marks distribution that had been suggested from the academic section gives 60% weightage, I think 50 to 60% weightage to CWS, and I will be giving 60% weightage to CWS, and end term examination I will be giving 40% weightage. So this 60%, how this will come out to be? So this 60% comprises of the tutorials. Okay, all the tutorials you have given, 9 tutorials you will be having in total. So this 9 tutorials you will have marks out of 90, which I will scale it to 60. So out of this 9 tutorials you will get some marks out of 60. And end term examination, it will comprise of 2 parts. One will be a MCQ type of quiz, and another will be a written examination. So the written examination will be almost like tutorial submission. So but it will be time bounded, and you will be like you are doing in the tutorial, like you are getting the problem sheet in the beginning of the hour, and by the end of the hour you have to submit it after solving the questions. In the same manner, we will take the written examination. The duration may be more than 1 hour, that will get decided. So it will be, I am not sharing the duration of each of these parts at this moment, but some part is written, some part is MCQ. Okay. So the written will be in the same manner as tutorials have been conducted. So you are quite used to it. So you receive the questions, you solve them, and you upload them. Okay. So that is the way. And in MCQ, what you will face. So I don't know if you are already giving MCQ for any other course. If you are giving, you would be familiar that there is a like we can set up quiz assignments in the Teams, and there like when we set up the assignment, you can go into that and you can start answering the questions, and there is a deadline, there is a time up to which you can attempt, and you have to submit by that time. So you attempt the MCQ and you submit by that time. So it is in the same manner. So you have to do it in the assignments section of the Teams. So it will come to each one of you. Both this MCQ and the written will come as assignments in the team section. So this will come as assignments in the team section. And as you know, the assignments have two different deadlines. One is if I just go into the exact vocabulary that is used by the teams, let me just see one of the assignments previously. Then yeah, there is a due time, due date and time, and there is a close date and time. So there is a due time and there is a close time. So what I will do, I will have a due time and I will have a close time. So please mute yourself. Someone has got unmuted. Yes, so there will be a due time and there will be a close time for each of these MCQ and written tests. So you have to try to upload within the due time. So if you upload within the due time, there will be no penalty. And if you upload after the due time, but of course you have to upload before the close time, there will be some penalty because of late upload. So I will give you an example. Like suppose the MCQ, suppose it is meant for 30 minutes duration. So it starts at suppose 2 p.m. and its due time is 2:30 p.m. This is start, this is due, and there is a close time. Close time I may set it to be 2:45 p.m. Now when you are starting to submit, some people maybe at submitting at 2:30, but because of submission time and some problems, it comes to me as 1 minute late, so 2:31. So 1 minute late I will excuse, but when it starts with 2 minutes late, so each minute late I will deduct half marks for that. So let me be very clear here. So from 30 for the first 5 minutes. Penalty, what is the penalty? Penalty is 0.5 marks per 1 minute for first 5 minutes. Okay, or you can say 4 minutes, so up to from 231 to 235, so 4 minutes. 231 I will excuse, the first minute I will excuse because of uploading, some time may be taken. So someone switching like pressing the submit button at 230 may take it to 231 while doing the submission, but after that from 232 to 235 each minute 0.5 marks penalty would be counted. And you may know that this is very clearly reflected when you are submitting, it is very clearly reflected how much delay you have done for the submission. So based on that information only, from the from what has been recorded in the Teams, this penalty would be accrued to you. So please submit within the due time. This close time is kept a bit later just to help us all submit at least. Even if you are unable to submit within 230, you might accrue maybe 0.5 or 1 penalty marks, but at least you will be able to submit. So no other exceptions would be undertaken or considered in this. And if you are being like if you think that you will submit later on, like someone, if they are trying to make any unfair means and copying from others and taking more time in order to finish their quizzes, this penalty will actually get levied on them, and so some marks would be cut from their submission because of their late submission. So next penalty, so for the first this up to from 230 to 235 it would be 0.5 marks per minute. After that it would be 1 marks per minute from for next 5 minutes, and then it would be 1.5 marks per minute for next 5 minutes. So you see 15 minutes are over now. So after that, if someone has not been able to upload, then it is their bad luck, no marks would be given for the MCQ part. So this much of time we are allowing, and we will not listen to any of the excuses that internet got failed or anything. So we are giving some time for the upload. So you upload in your own time, but please take into account that the penalty will also get also be levied because of that, and we will not be listening to any excuses of not being able to upload or not being able to submit because of internet issues or anything. So if you are facing genuine internet issues, what you should do if there is any internet issues? For that, what I will say, for the MCQ, because the MCQ cannot be scanned and uploaded in email and all, so what you have to do for the internet issues you are facing in MCQ, so while you are doing it, while you are solving the MCQ, please take screenshots of your answers. So take screenshots and keep them with you. In case the submission button is refusing to respond, immediately email the screenshots to me in my email. Email the screenshots. So you try to submit. So you are trying to submit at 229 or 230 maybe. So you see that your submission is not getting not taken by the system. So immediately you email, and you give email, and also you can do it in Teams chat. You can send it in Teams chat also. So either of these two options you utilize. At least you inform that something is wrong here, and we can verify that your screenshots, when you have taken the screenshots, that time etc. are all noted down. So we can verify, even if you are 2 or 3 minutes late or 5 minutes late, if you had taken the screenshots in time while doing the quiz, that could be verified when we receive the screenshots. But try to send them as quickly as possible. Don't be late in this. Okay, in Teams chat, in email, both options are there. So you try with another device. If one device is not working, you take the screenshots to another device and try to send it from there. So any one of these options would work. Next comes the written part. And in the written part also, the same penalty system would be implemented in the same way. Suppose the written part starts at 2 p.m. and suppose some due time is there, 2:30 p.m. Suppose the due time is 2:30 p.m. We will have 15 minutes time before we close the submission. But keep in mind that every minute you go beyond the due time, you are accruing penalty. There also you are accruing penalty. And in the same manner, this penalty will also be in the same manner, 0.5 for every 1 minute. Past like 2:31, up to 2:31 we will give relaxation because of the submission time. But beyond that we will have penalty marks getting cut off from your obtained marks. So 0.5 for every minute for the first 5 minutes, then 1 marks for every minute for the next 5 minutes, and then 1.5 marks every minute for next 5 minutes. So here also the same thing applies. Here already you are scanning things up, so you already have what you can call the screenshot or the scan. So if you are unable to upload it and submit it within time, please send the mail, send it in email and or chat. Okay, chat may be much better, or email is also fine. Okay, chat immediately it is coming immediately, the record comes when you are sending the chat. Email can sometimes be slow in delivery, so you may use the Teams chat as a better option to record that you have submitted in time. Okay, so this is what I wanted to say. And whenever we are receiving, so also please keep in mind, if you are this email and Teams chat, this time will also get recorded, and similarly we will be cutting out this penalty. We will apply to that amount of delay that you are making in submitting in email and Teams chat also. It is not that you are sending email and Teams chat and we will not give you any penalty. We will give you penalty even then, but considering what is the time when we receive that email or Teams chat. Okay, so the best thing is to submit within time, but if for some issue you are unable to do it, immediately use the alternate methods of sending it in email or Teams chat. Okay, and as soon as possible, because please keep in mind you are accruing penalty. The more late you are doing, you are accruing more penalty. So this is what I had to share. Please keep this in mind. And how what is the marks of the MCQ, what is the marks of the written, that you don't need to bother. Please concentrate on your preparation. So if you have prepared well, you will get marks in MCQ as well as written. MCQ will not have any negative marking. I will not keep any negative marking in the MCQ, but one thing you might face while doing the MCQ, there will be more number of questions than you could solve or you could answer in the given amount duration of time in the MCQ. So it will be almost like the entrance test that you have given. So you cannot solve, so don't assume that you will be able to solve all questions. If you are able to do it, very good, but we will give more questions than you would be able to solve in the given time. This is beneficial for you also, because you can skip questions whichever you are not able to attempt at that particular point and just go to the next question, not worrying about it. So just keep that in mind. There is no negative marking anyway, so there is some relaxation there. Okay, but the penalty will be applied very strictly. Okay, even if you are genuinely facing internet issues, whatever amount of time you are wasting in order to respond to us or email or send it to Teams chat, that penalty will be levied to you, even if there is genuine internet issues. So please set up your internet system very properly and have a alternate medium of communication also ready, so that even if one device is facing some problem, you can do it with another device, at least within 1 or 2 minutes. It will not accrue so much of a penalty. Okay, so this is please keep this in mind. Now any question regarding this? So I have explained it as thoroughly possible, I think, but I may have missed something and there may be some doubts in your mind. So if you have any query here, please tell me. Okay, so since there is no questions, I assume that you have understood it well. Yes, yes, yes. Hmm.
If someone attempts more questions then and it is correct, he or she attempts that question correct, then he or she will get more marks.
Yes, yes. There will be there is a complete. Suppose it is MCQ has 100 questions. Suppose, okay. Suppose there are 100 questions and someone is able to answer 90 questions. 90 questions someone is able to answer, and someone is able to answer 80 questions. So the marks that is given to the person who has done 90 questions would be more than that of the 80 questions. Okay, and there is some ratio we would do. It will be not absolutely 90 marks or 80 marks. Okay, so some ratio we would also undertake. Suppose this is not 100 marks, MCQ is not 100 marks. If it is 20 marks, then this 100 would be reduced to 20. Similarly, the 90 would also get scaled down. So in that manner, everything will get scaled down. Okay. The time of the final, this due time, would take into account this time of scanning also. So like in tutorials you may have noticed that whatever we give in the questions, it will take you 30 or 40 minutes to answer, and then around 10 minutes you will have for scanning and uploading. So similarly, that 10 minutes will be there, so you consider that to be within the due time. Okay, don't consider it to be outside the due time. So you have to upload by the due time. Am I clear here? So like I will explain with figures maybe. So suppose we start the written test at 2 p.m. okay, and suppose it is 1 hour duration. So 2 to 3 it is time for you to solve the paper. I will make the due time in this case to 3:15 or 3:10, something like that. So you will scan and then you will upload by 3:10, and then this is the due time, and the close time will then be 3:25. Some 15 minutes additional I will give for close. Okay, understood? Okay. So you will see that in the assignment the due time is 3:10, but in the paper you will see that the paper duration is 1 hour. So similarly, like it can be paper duration is 45 minutes and the due time will be in 1 hour mark. So something like that will be done. We have not set the paper yet, so we don't exactly know how much we are keeping the time. But whatever due time you see, please note that the due time is the time from which we will start calculating penalty. So if you are submitting after the due time, you will be getting some penalty. Okay. Okay, any other doubts? Yes. Yes. There is one more tutorial class that will be completed this week. I think this week the 9th tutorial is happening, na? This running week. Yes, that is all. We will have no more tutorial. Okay. Okay then. So I will stop sharing. Yeah, any other question? Okay. So Harshvardhan, I hope you have understood the marking scheme. So if anyone has any doubt, try to explain to them, but they can also reach out to me. That is absolutely fine. But if someone like comes to talk to you, since you are the CR, they may be shy to reach out to me directly. So you can, yes. Okay. Thank you then. Thank you. So I am closing the sharing as well as the recording, stopping the recording, and I will upload it by today. So yeah, okay. So thank you.